Jenny is a senior social media strategist for Dell and has been with the company for over 9 years. Jenny manages the social exec and spokesperson programs, which help executives build their digital media personas. Additionally, Jenny is the lead educator for Dell's overall social media strategy. This includes creating a clear path for all employees to engage and interact on social media, as well as training employees on the benefits of social media within their specific business unit. So, Jenny, the stage is yours.
Yay! Hi guys, how is everybody? Thank you for the incredible introduction. I feel like a little verklempt because I'm in the presence of so many just great individuals. I started peeking through like the bios and forgive me for creeping. I'm a creeper on social, and so I started to take a look at everything that you guys are already doing, and it's pretty incredible. My hope is that during our 20 minutes that we have today, that I can give you just a little bit more to take your social and your digital branding up to the next level. So really, what are we going to discuss in the next few minutes? I would like to focus a big chunk of our time together on brand. Then I'm going to spend just a little bit on your profile and what you should do to clean it up. And then essentially we'll talk about content. Think of this as me giving you a blueprint to not only build the foundation of your house, but how you're going to clean your house and get it ready for guests. And then how you're going to invite those guests over and actually interact with them like you're going to have a party, right? So think of it in those terms. We got to build the house first, then we got to clean it, and then we got to invite people over. So that's going to be who we are and what we're going to do today. So first question, and I can only see the chat because I know everybody's on mute and you may be shy, and I want to respect that. I do. But my question to you is, when was the last time you Googled your name? I would love to see your answers in the chat. And be honest, I mean, if it was just right now, that's okay. Beth, 2 weeks ago, 3 to 4 years, yes, a couple months, last week, fairly recently. Okay, okay, okay. I like you last week, folks. We like last week sometime. Who knows? Couple of hours ago. Okay, guys. All right, all right, all right. This is actually really, this is really good. This is good. For those of you where it's been a couple of years, I highly recommend just checking and seeing what pops up. Not from a should I be worried standpoint, but it's because it's what people perceive. Especially in this day and age, we're not able to really go and travel as much as we've been able to do in the past. Let's be real, we're still kind of in the middle of a pandemic, especially here in the US. And so how do I put my character out there? How do people see who I really am? Well, it's really what they can find on the internet. And what you see through your Google search is going to be really keen on what other people see too. So I always like to start here and just ask you to take a moment and see, what story am I telling? What can I find on the internet, whether it's my social profiles or lack thereof, that tells a story or doesn't? And we need to be cognizant of what that is for us, because if it were me, I would want to own my story. And I think as professionals and where you guys are in your lives, owning that digital narrative is imperative. And I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but now I'm really excited that it did. But just take that moment and we're going to stuff it in a heart and keep it there forever. But legitimately, who you are online should be no different than who you are in person. And I want to talk about how do you authentically do that, not only being true to yourself, but not compromising privacy either. So, okay, this is more of a rhetorical question, but my next question I want you to kind of think about deeply is, in a sea of voices, how in the world do you stand out? Right? There's a lot of noise on social media. There's a lot of noise on the internet. There's so many people talking over each other, trying to sell you something, trying to be something that they're not. So how in the world do you stand out from all of this nonsense? And honestly, the answer is very simple. It really boils down to authenticity. Your only currency through this digital sphere now, because of all the mess, is authentic you. That's what cuts through everything at the moment. It's how real am I being with my people, with my employees, with my friends, with my audience, with the potential employers that I want to hire me. How real am I being about my journey? How real am I being about where I am today and what I'm working on and the things that matter to me? There is so much power in just being real, especially when so many things have been falsely brought to us in the past. And so for you to really own your digital brand, you really have to dig in deep and be like, who am I? It is kind of this existential question. You have to know what you represent. And then you have to really deposit these character proof points along the way so that people can see you are who you say you are. And it used to be really easy for you and I to like shake somebody's hand or give somebody a hug or let them hear our voices, you know, the tone that we inhibit whenever we're speaking to somebody. But now it's getting harder to do that because we can't see each other. And sometimes, honestly, people are not just going to call you out of the blue. They're going to look you up first. And you know, you do that too. You probably saw a couple of names float by your desk, or maybe some of your peers that you're like, well, I wonder what this person's doing. And you probably look them up. We're all doing that. And that is something that you have to realize is being done for you too. So, what character are you putting forward? Now, really, the goal for each of us is to show that we're trustworthy, you know, that we're worth your time, your effort, your money, and just speaking to. And for so many of us, that is really hard to do if we don't put ourselves out there in the right way. And so we have a formula that I teach here at Dell Technologies, which is really around identifying what you want to be known for. And it's this mix of who you want people to see as a professional businesswoman or man. It's also this mix of who you really are from a personal perspective, but also the aspiring self. You haven't lived your whole life and you are allowed to change and you are allowed to grow and to evolve. So those things have to all kind of work together though. It's what I want people to see me as, it's what I am actually on any given day, and it's also who I want to be in the future because I believe in evolving. And what I know, you know, in my 20s isn't what I knew when I was in my 30s. And my God, I'm now 41. What I know now, I wish I knew that, you know, like there's just so many different things that evolve and change over time. Allow yourself that evolution and allow that also to kind of gleam through your social profiles. So what I would say to you is, you know, right now you need to start thinking about your LinkedIn, your Twitter, if you have it, your Instagram, and really quick, just in the chat box, I'm kind of curious, what platforms are you guys on? So give me just an overview of all the ones that you're currently using. When I say active, that means that like you've logged in within the last week. So LinkedIn and Instagram, good. Saw a couple Facebooks in there. All right. Facebook. Oh, I saw Twitter. Shout out to the Twitter. All right. Okay. All right. I see. Okay. None is fine too. TikTok. You don't have to be kidding about TikTok. You don't have to be kidding about TikTok. There's actually a space for that. Snapchat. Okay. Great. So you guys are active. I love seeing that you're active on LinkedIn. Facebook, I'm not going to talk about today. Facebook is its own weird little beast. And because it has gatekeeping connected to it, it's not quite one that I would use to help build your career and build your professional and personal persona. When we think about what we want to represent, we want to represent someone who's holistically well-rounded. Not only are you someone who is somebody I want on my team, but you're also personable, likable, and you're somebody that I could, you know, go to dinner with, or that we can pull and have honest conversations around. So when I say start to build your social brand around 3 to 5 specific topics, what I mean is that trifecta that I was talking about earlier. You have to identify, what is it that I really want people to see me as in business? Like, is there an expertise I have? Is there something that I do and have done for many years that I want to be recognized for? So I identify that. Then from a personal standpoint, it's what makes me human? And I'm going to talk about that here in just a minute. But you want to show that you're not just a work robot. Nobody talks about work all the time. That's ridiculous. We are not robots, and you shouldn't be a corporate robot. You shouldn't be somebody that just feels like they have to always talk about business. That's not real, right? Going back to authenticity piece, we really want you to be true to yourself. And then from the aspiring piece, it's more of like, well, what am I trying to build on, or what is it that I want people to know me as? And I like to do this as an activity, which is think about your 80th birthday party. If somebody was going to give a toast at your 80th birthday party, what are the things that you wish that they would say? And I know that's a long way down the road, but if you have a destination, it's easier to map that out versus just, climbing in the car and just deciding you're going to drive. That doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe some of you do that, but I prefer to know where I'm going before I get in the car. So when we think about what are these brand topics, identify for yourself what that would be from a professional standpoint, a personal human standpoint, and an aspiring standpoint. Now, the human piece I want to talk about, because I don't think that you have to compromise privacy to showcase that you're a real human being. That doesn't mean that I need to see what you have cooked this morning for breakfast. What it really means is that you're offering up and risking something that is real to you that you're willing to have a conversation about with other people. I am a huge comic nerd. I don't even know. You know what? If you go out to my profiles on Instagram or on Twitter, you're going to see that. It's front and center. I have no qualms about talking about that with other people. I'm a cosplayer. I go to cons when we were able to go. And I make my own costumes, and I collect comics with my husband. I have like Wonder Woman comics that are sitting like right over here from like the 40s. So this is a big part of my life, and people in the office know that they can come to me and talk about the new Marvel movie that just came out, right? Or the new series that just the WandaVision that just came out on Disney Plus. They can come to me and have those conversations, and it's authentically me, and I don't mind that they know this. But you may not be that person. You may be more on the, hey, I'd rather just talk about the charities that I work with. It's uniquely something I support, but it doesn't give too much away of my personal life that I feel uncomfortable. Or maybe it's just a cause that you support. Maybe you don't actually do anything, but you really do support like an organization that's out there. I'll give you an example. My mom and dad both had cancer. I haven't had cancer, but they have. And so I support the American Cancer Society anytime I get a chance on social media. It just shows that this is something that I care about and people can see. It's not always Jenny talking about social media and executives at Dell, right? So that balance needs to be there for you. Like essentially, who am I that I want people to see, but also what is authentically real for me? And you merge those together. Okay, so that's the branding piece. And there's so much more that we could talk about that, but I only have 20 minutes. So we're going to move forward to the profile. Now, as we start to think about that foundation, you all have to understand what that is first before you write your profile, before you even have imagery connected to who you are. So let me please implore you to start with that foundation first. But now we're going to build the house. Your imagery is important. Whether you like it or not, people are going to make judgments on what you look like and whether you have imagery that pulls them in on your profiles. So that means the pictures that you share, but also what is there for a banner perspective, what is there as my profile picture. All of those images communicate a piece of your brand. So please make sure that one, that imagery is up to date, and two, it represents you in a light that you're okay with. If you go out to my LinkedIn or to any of my Twitter profiles, I only have one. And if you go over to my Instagram, you're going to see the same photo throughout. So that way you can see I am this person. You're also going to see imagery that is connected to me. On my LinkedIn, I have a picture of the Austin skyline because I live in Austin. On my Twitter, you're going to see me speaking to a large crowd because that's what I do for Dell. I'm a speaker. So it all makes sense from an imagery standpoint, the stuff that I'm sharing. And for you, you need to do the same. Also, your headline or what you choose as how you're going to describe yourself, it should communicate how you help people. It's it's not one of those things that you need to think too long about, but essentially don't just default to something bland. I like to communicate in my bio really who I am, because if you're going to take 2 seconds to read it, it's going to give you just that much more knowledge of what you're about to see in my profiles. So think of it as kind of a prompt for people to understand what they're getting themselves into. And then from a summary perspective, if you guys haven't spent time on developing a summary, I want to give you a 3-step process that I choose and teach to all of my executives here at Dell. You should first answer the question, who am I, in your summary? And that just means who you are right now, what you're doing, and the things that are important to you. That second question you should ask in this, or excuse me, that you should answer in the summary is about what makes you different. There's 1,000 million people out there. So out of all the people that are vying for the same position and doing the same thing that you're doing, we really need to know, well, what makes you different from those individuals? It could be different languages that you speak, different organizations that you've worked with. It could be that you have a different approach that you want to recognize or pronounce to other people, but it all has to be captured. If it's not written out there, and if you're not telling that story, then we make assumptions, and most of the time we'll probably make the wrong assumptions. So guide us through what makes you different. And then last but not least, that third question you should answer in your summary and in your bio is, what makes you human? I think this is the most important piece, because essentially you are telling people, this is who I am outside of the work that I do. Yes, you may recognize me for the work and you may see some of the things that I've done, but this is who I am. And that who I am piece of it breaks down a lot of barriers if they don't quite understand what you do. And I think that this is important, because so often someone will tell me what they do for their job and I just kind of nod. I'm like, that's cool, that's interesting. And then I'm like, I don't have a clue what this actually means. But then they're like, oh, well, I used to I'm a runner, I used to run. I'm like, oh, wait a second, I also run. And then you have like this weird connection point where you may not run as much as them, but you do have some type of commonality that all of a sudden connects the two of you. I've had more conversations through my LinkedIn profile because somebody read that I was into comics and I was a Star Wars fan and that I went to the University of Arkansas and ran track. Those are the 3 conversation starters versus what I've done for Dell for 9 years. So think about that. Like, what commonalities are you willing to risk on your summary that kind of showcases that piece of it too? So who you are, what makes you different, and then of course, what makes you human. That's a good piece. If you have all of those things identified in your profiles, then you guys are doing a really good job. You're ahead of the game. All right. Now, last but not least, we've talked about building that foundation. We've talked about cleaning up our house so that that story is well represented, but now we need to deposit character proof points. And content really is the only way that you're going to get there. And for those of you, actually, just kind of give me a yes or no. If you're in an area that gets snow, give me a yes. And if you're in a hot area like Texas, give me a no. Oh, I see a lot of yeses.
Everyone say yes.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Very
Guess
cold.
what?
Very cold.
We're Canadian. We have a lot of.
I know. I'm sad I even asked that question because I'm super jealous. I love the snow. I have lived in the South my whole life, and I hardly get it. And when we do, I freak out, and it's a magical, amazing experience. And I'm sure all of you think I'm nuts because I know nothing about living in the cold or the snow or having to shovel it. Yes, I realize that. Let me have my moment. My point, though, was that for those of you that live in cold climates that know what having snow is around, is that if one snowflake falls to the ground, you can't really say that it snowed, right? But when you have thousands of snowflakes that all fall in an accumulation in one area and you have this blanket of white, you can look outside and we can all say, oh, it snowed. But it's only because of the accumulation, and it's only because of the single snowflake that all fell in the same spot. Think about that for your brand. Your content, what you post online, how you represent yourself. These are all character proof points. They're ways for you to show who you are, what you believe in, what matters to you, what you're working on, all of these different elements. But they all have to be gathered in one spot for people to see. And that is online, that is through your profiles. So the content piece is important. And there's really 3 different ways that I think you can achieve this. One of them is through passive engagement. Those are those retweets or those reshares that you are probably already very comfortable doing. And I think you need to do this. And here's the reason why. You should be aware of the things that are happening around you, the trendsetters or the people that you admire, and feel confident enough that when you retweet or reshare them on your profile, it's a representation of what you want folks to see and how you, right, live your life. So please continue to do that. But I need you to step it up. So when we get to tier 2, this is this active engagement. It's when you take something or is prompted by something else and add your own thought leadership to it. When I say this, I don't mean commentary like, hey, check out this article, or hey, this was a good read, or I really enjoyed this post. That's fluff and that's noise. We want to hear your voice. You ladies are in a unique position because of what you're doing and the things that you have already accomplished to have a voice. So use your voice. Use your voice. And if it is prompted by an article or somebody else's post, that's okay. But give me context for why you are sharing with me. Your voice is so important, and it is part of how we cut through all the BS. The more that I hear from you and really your unique perspective, the better I'm going to understand. And then we're going to lessen that distance of trust between us. And then last but not least, I think you guys are all very aware of this. Organic posting is the best way to build your brand. But we can't have you organic posting all the time. It doesn't quite make sense because then you start to sound pompous, like you're the only person that matters. And that's not okay either. So if there's anything that you're taking away from my discussion today, is that there is balance in all of this, not only in how you represent yourself, but also in what you share and what you put forth for people to see and to read. But those organic posts are going to be the quickest way for me to really see who you are. And I love my organic posting really revolves around kind of what's happening right now organically in my life. As an example, if you go out to my Twitter, I've been painting recently. I say that hesitantly because I've been like, I'm not traveling. I'm not going anywhere with the pandemic. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to paint some mountains because this is where I want to be. And this is the only way I can get there. And so I shared a couple of those paintings because that's what I was doing during the pandemic. And now you'll start to see kind of some flows of advice that I give to execs or different things that I've seen through the content that's being shared through my circles. And so for you, think about how you are going to balance all of this. It really is about identifying first who you are. And once you have just a glimmer of that, and you don't have to have it all worked out. You guys remember who you are at 20 and at 30 and then at 40, it all changes. And those that have been around for a while, they could probably agree with me that you're not the same person you were a few years back. I mean, some of us evolve and change from year to year, and that's okay too. But you have to showcase this and allow some grace for yourself that change is okay. So we talked a little bit about identifying your brand. I did a brief summary over cleaning up your profile and making sure that that's nice and spiffy and clean. And then we talked just a bit about posting those character proof points. And guys, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I highly recommend that if you have questions about this, or if you need guidance on what is my brand, if you don't really know what that is, that's okay. But maybe we start thinking about what that could be. And if you haven't, used social media, and if you're not one of those people that wants to be out there, that's okay too. But how are you going to tell your story? Do you have another way of representing your character? And if you're not a poster right now, but then you're like, well, what do I do? Start small with identifying ways to show your character through your posts. Maybe do it once a month, then ramp that up to every few weeks, to then every 2 weeks, and then maybe once a week. I really don't think you need to post more than once a week. honestly. For one, just show us you're consistent, and two, show us that you're alive and real. So if you would like to connect with me, I highly, highly, highly recommend you go out to Twitter and to Instagram. I've posted them there for you guys to connect. I didn't post my LinkedIn because I thought that was self-explanatory. You can always connect with me on LinkedIn, but here's my caveat. Reference this talk. I have a lot of people that want to connect with me just blindly, but I want you to just say, hey, I saw you today, and that will give me a cue to connect with you as somebody that I want in my network. So thank you guys so much for listening. And honestly, if you have any questions, I'm going to stick around. I'll be here probably through the end of the session. So my knowledge is yours whenever you want it.